Hello. For data from JSON, this is the sample JSON file we have here from which we want to import the data into our Excel sheet. In this JSON file, we have employees as our root and all the employee data have been provided here as key value pairs. So we are going to import this data into our Excel sheet. For that, we will need the file path. So what we will have to do for that is use get all files and bring the sample JSON file path from which we are going to be importing the data. So this is the sample file path that we will be using. First, go to import from JSON. Provide the file location as the file path. For root, we have employees, and for pattern, we have to provide the comma separated list of these key values that are present. So here we can either provide all of them or even selectively choose any of the values that we want to import to our Excel sheet. So let's say we want to import the user ID and job title from the JSON file. In pattern, start with curly braces and provide the comma separated list of these key values that are user ID and job title. So these would basically serve as the column headers that we are going to have in our Excel sheet. So if you want your resultant table to have the column headers as same from the JSON file, then we can leave the exclude column headers argument blank. If you do not want to have the same headers imported from the JSON file, then what we can do is we can provide true in this particular argument, and this will exclude the headers that are present in the JSON file. So for this example, let's just leave it blank, which is by default false. Okay, so once we run the function, we have the user ID and job title for the employees from our sample JSON file. So similarly, you can provide whichever columns you want to import the data for. This can be done by providing the column headers as a comma separated list in the pattern argument. A second way to import data from JSON is to provide the cell reference of the column headers. So let's just say we want to import a particular set of key values. So these are the fields from the JSON file. The headers need to be in a horizontal arrangement for this method to work. Vertically arranged headers will not work for this particular method. Okay, so let's do import from JSON. Select the file location and in root write employees and in the pattern we select the cell range that contains the headers we want. Then for exclude column headers we provide true as we already have the column headers here, and then we click on OK. So once we run the function, we get the data from the JSON file. So the required data has been imported. Okay, so this was the general case for how we can import data from a JSON file using SheetKraft function. Now let us consider another sample file with similar data. So now we have the employee code with option. Like there is an array of values for the key employee code. So let's just take a look at the method we have to follow to import such data into our Excel sheet using SheetKraft. So for employee code, we have multiple values and we want to fetch from these values. For example, we want to fetch the first ID from the employee code for this particular example. So let's take a look at how we can do that. So for that, I am going to copy this header employee code, and then in square brackets I am going to provide 0. So here we are fetching the 0th value from the employee code, then dot. Now I have to specify which one I want to import from the 0th position, as we have two key value options and ID inside the employee code. So let's just say from employee ID I want to fetch the ID of the first element. So we write it as the header, and in square brackets 0 indicates the first item from the array. Then from the first position we want to take the ID value. So now what we do is import from JSON, and in file path we'll provide the new file path sample2.json. Now for root we provide employees, and pattern we will select the cell G10 where we've written the new employee code square bracket 0.id new position, and then we will exclude column headers, and then we click on OK. So we got E1, which is the first ID value. Now let us change 0 to 1 and we can get the second ID value. So run the formula and we get E01. As you can see, this is the second ID value. Similarly we can do for option also. So this is all for data from JSON. Thank you.